The safe option for the main event is obviously Anderson Silva. Statistically speaking, of course, the longer it goes on, the more chance there is that he doesn't make it. And I have to say that I think Chris Fireman is one of the sort of people who could win. I have two issues. The one issue, obviously, is the fact that his record is slightly lacking in names, just not in terms of names particularly, but in sort of the caliber fighters that Anderson Silva would be classed as. And the other issue I have is the fact that he's been laid off a year, and I am really worried that the main thing that could spoil this for him and give him his first loss would be the fact that he's just, been out for so long. I hope he does win, but I have to say that, let's be honest, it's probably going to be an Anderson Silva win, isn't it? In order to win this match, David Mitchell, who is on a record of 12-2, has to submit Mike Pierce, who's got a record of 16-5. Now, the problem with this is, first, that Mike Pierce has never been submitted. And the second thing is that if you look at who those 5 losses are to, they are all the highest of calibers. I suspect that, therefore, that this is going to be a Mike Pierce decision victory. Who knows who is going to win this one? This is Brian Melancon, 6-2, a Strikeforce import, fighting Seth Baksinski with a record of 18-9. Now, that's not quite as a squash match as you think. Seth Baksinski has just lost. In fact, he's coming off a loss to Mike Pierce. And, although he's got a speciality in submissions, 10 of them victories, he also has a further 5 submission losses. I don't know. I don't know. I feel this will probably be a decision. I might go for Seth Baksinski just because I don't know the other guy, having been, from Strikeforce at all. Rafaelo Oliveira, with a record of 16-5, is fighting Edson Barboza with a record of 11-1. Edson is a stand-up striker, but that one loss is a knockout. That was, however, to Jamie Varner. I do think that Edson Barboza will probably win this one. I'm not sure how, though. I might have to go for decision. This next match is going to bode very well for Dave Herman, I'm afraid. He's got a record of 21-5. Unfortunately, he is already 3 losses in a row. He fought thrice in 2012 and he lost them all. He unfortunately also lost 2 of them by knockout, and of course he's fighting Gabriel Gonzaga with a record of 14-7, known perhaps best for dispatching Krokop on the feet. Having said that, Gonzaga is mostly, statistically speaking, a submission artist, which is certainly going to do him no harm here, because Dave Herman is a stand-up striker, and, well, I don't know much about him on the ground, to be honest. His record doesn't show much, and I don't really remember him. Whereas Gabriel Gonzaga might sort of go for the ground game if he doesn't want to do the stand-up, but I don't think that Dave Herman will win on the feet. Well, he might, I suppose, but I don't know. I'm going to go for Gabriel Gonzaga winning. I don't know how, and I'm probably going to say that will be the end of Dave Herman in terms of the UFC. It's funny because I like Kazuki Tokudome indeed. A record of 12-3, and he does occasionally win by submission, but the problem is at the moment his last 3 fights, the most recent 2 have been decision victories, and that includes his 1 fight in the UFC. He's fighting Norman Parke, who is 17-2, and Norman has a lot of experience with submissions. 12 of his 17 wins. It's true that his only 2 losses are by submission as well, but those were quite a long time ago, 2010 and right at the start of his career. I hate to say it, but I think that Norman Parke might win this one, and I think it could well be a submission as well. I'll go for a bar submission in the 3rd. So, like a perennial weed, every so often, when he doesn't get himself into trouble, Chris Leben fights in the UFC, believe it or not, and he's fighting on this card. His record is 22-9, but he is coming off 2 losses in a row, 1 in 2012 and 1 in 2011. He is fighting Andrew Craig with a record of 8-1. You know, I just think that even maybe, I don't suppose he was that good to begin with, really. If you look at his record, peppered with both. I am going to say that I think that Andrew Craig will win this one by decision. I just feel that, you know, he's as much out of the UFC as he is in, and as much, you know, in trouble as he is out of trouble. So I just think that, you know, I think he'll lose. I'm going to go for Andrew Craig. I'm going to go for a decision victory there. But whether they get rid of Chris Leben after, you know, 3 losses in a row, or whether they just keep him on, you know, on a contract where he only fights, you know, once in a blue moon, I don't know. The next match is Cub Swanson with a record of 19-5, fighting Dennis Silva with a record of 21-8. Do you know, Dennis Silva has to go back to his submission roots to get a good win here. Cub Swanson, you know, he with a high caliber, if he wins, it's by decision. I think that it won't go to decision. I hope that Dennis Silva will win here, with some sort of submission, preferably in the first round. But then I don't like Cub Swanson at all. I worry for the same reason with Mark Munoz as I do with Weidman, and in fact that's because neither of them have fought since they fought each other about a year ago, and he is fighting Tim Boetsch this time, 16-5. I just think that with him being out, that might have slowed his momentum, although it was already stopped, really, with his last fight. But I think, do you know, I think I'm going to go for a Tim Boetsch decision. This could be my bum decision of, my bum prediction of the card, but we've got Tim Kennedy with a record of 15-4, a Strikeforce import, fighting Roger Gracie, who's got a record of 6-1, also a Strikeforce import. And, you know, Tim Kennedy has fought quite high calibre people, to be fair, and he has beaten sort of the vast majority of them. And he also is rather good at submissions and has never been submitted, which of course is Roger Gracie's speciality. No surprise there. The key is in the name. Having said all of that, Tim Kennedy was not very nice. He has not yet had a fight in the UFC. gets an automatic sort of import, and the first thing he does is slags off the institution for fighter pay. And whilst, you know, we all know that fighters probably don't get paid as much as they should, that the institution is a capitalistic, greedy, penny-pinching organisation, it's not really his place as an employee to say that, particularly not just before the fight. It's not for those reasons, honestly, but just as an aside, I have a feeling that this could be upset of the night in most people's eyes, and I am going to go for a Roger Gracie submission win. If any fighter epitomises the term bum decision, it would have to be Frankie Edgar, who, to be totally honest, has done very, very well. Apart from the fact that every time it goes to a decision, he's generally on the losing end, and not because he's lost the fight, but just because, I don't know, he just gets given bum decision after bum decision. If it's not a draw, it's a real bum decision. Anyway, he is fighting Charles Oliveira, who doesn't really know decisions at all. He's won once in 16 matches by that method, so at least we're probably not going to see this one go to decision if he has anything to do with it. I hope that you know, Frankie Edgar manages to win here, and I do think that he will. It's the first time he hasn't been fighting at title level since that questionable draw for Grain Maynard, certainly, and of course his impressive double victory over BJ Penn, which was probably where it all began, and to be honest, where it all began to fall apart as well. I don't know if he will ever fight for a title again, but I certainly hope that he wins this one.